Hey guys, happy Tuesday. It's time for Tidbit Tuesdays again. So I mentioned last week about 401ks and I talked a little bit about life insurance. So I want to dive a little deeper into the life insurance portion because this is really an important piece of maybe your retirement, your future, and it's just a good planning tool. So with life insurance, there are many different kinds. There's whole life insurance, there's term life insurance, there's permanent term life insurance. And what people generally, I find, don't know is they have no clue how much life insurance they need. So everybody is different and everyone's needs are different. So how do you know how much life insurance you need? Well, I have a really cool tool that it just asks some basic questions and you plug that in, and at the very end it will tell you how much life insurance is recommended. And of course we can talk through that because everyone's needs change, whether you have small children, no kids at home, if you want to leave a legacy, what debts do you have, what do you want paid off if something happens to you, how many years of salary do you need. There's a lot of things that people just don't realize that comes into play when you're talking about life insurance. And even parents, when you have kids, it would be awesome to purchase them a permanent, maybe even a permanent term life insurance policy that is good for them for their whole life. The rates are going to be dirt cheap because they're young, and they'll have something for later on that, gosh, could you imagine $10 a month and have 100,000 or more of coverage for your whole life? That would be awesome. It would give them a great start. So the reason I talk about knowing how much life insurance to have is because I had a client, or I'm sorry, my partner had a client that she was a stay-at-home mom, had 2 small children, and her husband passed away. They were relatively young, in their late 30s. So he had $1 million life insurance policy because he thought that was enough coverage. Well, mom, talking with my partner that's a financial advisor, the conversation kind of went like this. Mom's like, well, I never thought I'd be a millionaire. This is not the way I would want to be a millionaire. But now I've got this money. I want to buy a house on the lake. And she started listing these things she wanted to do for her children so they could have a nice life. So my partner had to point out to her, it's like, okay, so how much did your husband make normally a year? $80,000. Okay, so now you don't work, so we have to replace that income. $1 million doesn't go very far. And now, doing some financial planning with the widow and talking to her, she's actually going to have to scale back her lifestyle to be able to live on about $40,000 to $50,000 a year, which is not what she was used to. It's almost cutting her income in half. And it was all because he didn't have enough life insurance to protect him. No one wants to think about that, but that's conversations I have with people. Just because you have coverage now doesn't mean that you have enough. Doesn't mean it's necessarily fit your needs. And it also doesn't mean that you're paying the right amount. I've come across another instance just this past week where I have a client who's about 40, and he had a policy, a $500,000 policy, and asked me for some quotes for $1 million policy because he wanted to have more life insurance. And I gave him quotes. The $1 million quote was $20 less a month than his $500,000 quote. And he was like, is that possible? And I'm like, yes. Your current policy is through somebody who only has one carrier to pick from, so that's your only choice. And so there was no shopping involved. Yes, you want to make sure that if something happens to you, the policy gets paid out. But there are lots of companies out there. Some of them have different underwriting requirements. The process is easier with some than others. And you just have to really get some choices to know A-plus company, of course, but you want to get some choices so that you're not overpaying for life insurance. I mean, you personally don't get benefit, your family does if something happens to you, but why would you want to spend the extra money when you can get, this guy can get twice as much coverage for $20 less a month. I'm sorry, $20 more a month. To me, that would be worth it. And so we're going to look at some different options, not necessarily cancel the other policy because I need to confirm what they have. That's something I do as well. I'm not like, oh, I give you something cheap, let's cancel your other. No, no, no. Because if your health issues have changed, or if that policy is not the same exact policy, we're looking at term. If that's not term, that could be the reason why it costs more. There's a lot of different factors you need to look at to make sure that it makes sense to cancel that policy and go with something else. But either way, you can have more than one life insurance policy. You know, if you need more coverage or want different purposes for your coverages, there's ways to do that, or increase. With most companies, you can't just increase the face value, but it depends. If you get coverage through an employer, you can increase it every year, but the negative to having coverage through your employer is sometimes that's not portable. And what do I mean by that? That means that if you leave your employer, life insurance ends. So if you have life insurance through your employer and you think, great, I'm covered, you need to have a separate policy, a standalone policy that is not related to your employer, because you never know when something will change with that. The employer has complete control over whether they continue to offer it or if it's available to you once you leave the company. So I always want to make sure people kind of plan a little bit. No one likes to think about dying, but it really kind of puts your mind at ease knowing that your family will be taken care of, that you'll leave a legacy. And remember, hop on over to my Facebook page, JCAP Consulting. Also my website, you can schedule an appointment with me and have a consultation. I'm happy to compare what you have now, give you some choices. And, you know, if you're unhealthy, there's still some things we may be able to do, but we need to look at it. And there's a lot of ways that life insurance can have some long-term care built into it, have benefits that you can pay out, that you can get paid while you're still alive if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, which is helpful to you, because then you can use that money for treatment, hospice, or do some things you want it to do. So until next week, peace out, and I'll see you there.